What was said to be Brady's homecoming to the Bay Area ended up becoming one of the most humbling games of his entire career. The 49ers ran through the Buccaneers, winning the game 35-7, along with handing Tom the third worst loss of his career. The game has really got us thinking, are the Buccaneers and Tom Brady really this bad? Keep watching this video for more on the real Slim Brady. First up, a really slow start to the game. The Buccaneers could not have had it worse on Monday as they got their backside handed to them by the dominant San Francisco 49ers. They were schooled in all four quarters and were only able to put up 7 points in the third, losing by a total of 28 points. The 49ers were amazing though. They got off to a brilliant start, scoring touchdowns on 3 of their first 4 dives to go up by 21 points. It was the dream start. And if you ask us, it's exactly what separated the two teams as Tampa Bay fell to 6-7 in the season. Brady and the bunch just couldn't make any plays. And you really got to hand it to the 49ers for outclassing the Bucs. They made some really aggressive offensive plays to take a 28 lead in the first half and prevented Tampa Bay from executing their own. It was the perfect display of strategy as they dominated Tom Brady and the Buccaneers on both the offensive and defensive end. You win because you make plays. You keep them from making plays. They make plays and they keep you from making plays. You lose by 28 points. Tom might have had the third worst game of his career, but he's right about why the Bucs lost so badly. As we said before, San Francisco owned them in both departments. Tampa Bay still sits at the first spot in the NFC South, but we won't be too surprised if the Panthers or Falcons are able to creep up and push them down. Next, lack of consistency. You could tell Brady was furious with himself and the team after the game had ended. While talking to the media, the legendary quarterback expressed his concerns over the team's lack of consistency. The 45-year-old thinks the lack of consistency is the number one reason why the Buccaneers have had such a terrible start to the 2022-23 season. He's right about the inconsistent performance, and we're not gonna lie, the Bucs have had some really impressive starts this season. They've dominated quarters and even entire halves, but when it comes to finishing things off, they've never been able to carry that consistency and momentum to the last second of the game. Brady also blasted the team for becoming so lazy whenever they play 5 minutes worth of good football. We played well for 5 minutes and don't play well for 55 minutes, but it's not like he's running away from responsibility or something. The Pharaoh failed to pitch in himself as he only managed to complete 33 of 55 passes with 2 interceptions and 1 touchdown. Credit to him for treating it like any other loss though. It's a really bad defeat, but it's not the end of the world for Tampa Bay. Or in the words of Brady himself, you either kick it or you get your kicked, and we're pretty sure you can tell which end the Bucs were on after this game. Oh, and how can we forget Brock Purdy? The 22-year-old played a huge role in destroying the Bucs and even got a high five from Tom. Moving on, the race for the Super Bowl. Despite a rocky start to the new season, 538 thinks Tampa Bay has a 74% chance of making the postseason. We're going to be real with you guys. If they manage to stay on top, even after some really bad performances, they'll probably end up winning South. But the real question is the Super Bowl. If they want to keep their Super Bowl hopes alive, then they better be prepared to pick things up, put this loss behind them, and come together as a team. Brady is doing an excellent job by taking responsibility and not putting it all on the team, but they need to find their mojo and consistency if they want to finish big. But who better to lead the Buccaneers than the Pharaoh himself? After having played for a jaw-dropping 23 seasons, Tom knows what he needs to do to get the team out of this mess. He knows they can't cling to the bad performances and need to focus on what's ahead of them. He told the media that last week had nothing to do with the game against San Francisco. And just like that, the next week will have nothing to do with this one. If you ask us, all it'll take is 2 or 3 consistent performances for Tampa Bay to return to their winning ways. But yeah, they're taking it game by game, and that's exactly what's needed at this point if they want to keep their Super Bowl hopes alive. Now for the worst divisional winners in history. Former football player and sports analyst at Yahoo Sports, Frank Schwab, had some really interesting things to say about Tampa Bay after their dreadful performance against San Francisco on Monday. He didn't bother holding back or sugarcoating anything, and straight up called the Bucs an extremely bad football team. Forget about how things might look at the end of the season. Frank doesn't even see them winning a single game. And while that's certainly a bit over the top, he does have a point here. Just think about it. The fact that they're still on top of the South obviously means they've had it easy. What other other team has managed to stay on top after playing such bad football. These aren't our words, but believe it or not, Schwab thinks the Buccaneers are lucky to be playing the worst division of the NFL. That's a lot of shade, and not just at the Bucs, but at every team in the South. And if they do end up winning, Frank thinks they'll be the worst divisional winners in the history of football. The former football player also hates it when fans think the Bucs are just having a bad start and will turn it up in the playoffs. Whenever someone says that, Schwab cringes and doesn't waste a second in reminding them that Tampa Bay is a terrible team, set to go nowhere this season. Pretty harsh from the sports analyst, but judging from how Tampa Bay has played this season, at least he's keeping it real, right? Following up, are the Bucs really this bad? Now, ladies and gentlemen, for the million-dollar question, are Tom Brady and the Buccaneers really this bad? Or are Brock Purdy and the 49ers this good? Well, we weren't exactly shocked by how things played out. It's football. You win some, you lose some. But losing by 28 points? Now that was shocking. In case you haven't noticed, the Buccaneers have a terrible offense. Like terrible. Tampa Bay wide receiver Mike Evans and Tom Brady have been on the wrong page for months now. Nothing seems to be working for them. And if we're talking about Brady in particular, he's really been struggling. Of course, you could argue his presence adds a lot of value to the team. But what if he's not performing his duties as a quarterback? After banging his arm, his throws just don't look natural anymore. He's been dropping them short, and his accuracy is also struggling a lot. But let's not beat around the bush and be honest here. The fact that the Bucs lost by 28 points has a lot to do with their own performance. They've been absolutely dreadful when it comes to offense. And let's not even talk about the defense, guys. If it was any good, the Bucs wouldn't have conceded 28 points in the first half. A lot of credit goes to Brock Purdy, who kept the 49ers really pumped up with his exceptional playmaking. Brady is already having a tough season, and then Brock came along and completely neutralized him. Up next, no more Mr. Irrelevant. Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance are both out for the rest of the season. And you know what that means, right? Brock Purdy will have to sustain what he's been doing for the past 2 weeks now. It's all up to him to not exactly lead the 49ers, but play a major role in taking them home. And we're not sure you know this, Purdy was actually labeled as Mr. Irrelevant because he was the last picked player in this year's draft. Guess he's not so irrelevant anymore. His performance against the Bucs has put him on top, and like we mentioned before, it's even managed to get him the respect of the GOAT Tom Brady. NBC's Mike Florio also spoke out about the irrelevant label and thinks it needs to go now. Purdy, along with all the other Mr. Irrelevants, deserves respect now. Brock completed 16 out of 21 passes on Monday for 185 yards, along with 2 touchdowns. The 22-year-old has a passer rating of 134, which clearly shows he's on a roll right now. But calling him Mr. Irrelevant at this point, when he's clearly in the front seat to take the 49ers to the Super Bowl, is a disgrace. Last but not least, what's next for the Bucs? We're hoping Tom and Tampa Bay are able to put this embarrassing loss behind them as they gear up to take on the Cincinnati Bengals in a high-profile matchup at home. If we compare the two teams on how they've been performing so far, the Bucs are in for some real trouble. Unlike Tampa, Cincinnati is coming into this game hot with a 5-game win streak. Whether the Bucs will be able to rebound in this matchup is a huge question mark, since they've been having a lot of trouble on both the defensive and offensive end of things. Head coach Todd Bowles claims the Buccaneers need to come together now and decide what they want to be. If they want to be an average team, they won't need to change much. But if it's a Super Bowl they're looking for, a lot of work is needed. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Are Tom Brady and the Buccaneers going to become the worst divisional winners this season? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.